Hello and welcome. If you haven't met me before, my name is Lisa Higgins and I'm a lymphedema therapist and medical intuitive. And today I'm going to talk to you about self-care for lipedema, doing what you can on a budget. Now I'm re-recording this. This was a talk I gave in June 2024 at the Lipoedema Conference in Melbourne, Australia. And I feel it's really important that I re-record these talks that I give to make them available for everyone, not just the attendees. In this talk, I'm going to focus on two aspects of lipedema care, self-care. The first being things that you can do that have zero cost, and the other being things that have a low cost, because it's really important that you self-manage this condition as much as you possibly can. And I have a list of things in the zero cost options, including breath, water, and that's both drinking and exercising, and a whole host of different options. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by focusing on the two most important things, in my opinion, for lipedema care, any care, not just lipedema. For good health, these two things are the ones that cost absolutely nothing, that people ignore the most, and which will have the greatest benefit to your health in the long run. The first is breathing, and the second is water. And that is the drinking of water, as separate from exercising in it. And I say to people all the time, do you breathe well? And they say, well, I'm alive, I breathe, sure. And I show them how to breathe and ask them to show me how they breathe. And it's very different, those two things. How most people breathe, because we are always so stressed, is, you take a breath in and you go. And what that's doing is that's bringing your breath to the top of your lungs. It's not filling your lungs. And if your lungs aren't filling, then your diaphragm isn't being activated. And if your diaphragm isn't being activated, then all of the lymph nodes in your abdomen, of which there are many, and they help with digestion, amongst other things, then those aren't being stimulated. Now, the benefits of doing abdominal or diaphragmatic breathing are multiple, including one, there's research that shows 5 abdominal breaths 5 times a day helps to control lymphedema. Now, you may not have lymphedema, but if you think how powerful that is as a tool, that in itself is worth gold. But the other side effect of breathing well is that it lowers your blood pressure, it reduces stress, improves digestion, improves cardiovascular health. Now, I'm not going to teach you in this video how to do a proper diaphragmatic breath. And that can be, if you play a wind instrument, you know how to breathe. If you sing, you know how to breathe. If you do yoga or Pilates, it's that kind of breath, or Tai Chi. Most people don't do those things, so you don't know how to breathe. What I'm going to do is I'll show you the cheats way of breathing. And so that is, you have your hands between your chest and you take a breath in and move your arms out and breathe at the same time. So you're doing. And if you do that, it takes all of the thinking out of whether you're doing the breath right. So that breath 5 times a day helps to control lymphedema. The proper way, so if I show you, when you breathe in, you should be having a breath like this. Now, what happens is because we have photos taken all the time, and I remember growing up and my mum would say, oh, wait, hang on, I'm going to take a breath in. And what they do is instead of breathing out when you breathe, it's this sucking in the tummy so that you don't look big in your photos. So it's this conditioning that we have, that the breath, that when you take a breath in, this is what you do, but that's actually the opposite. So that can be a little bit tricky, and I could spend an hour just trying to teach you how to do that. So I'm not doing that today. I'm just showing you the cheats way of doing it. This is how I show it to my clients as part of their homework, and you can take that away with you. Now, if you wanted to learn more about how to breathe properly, there are lots of resources. So you can go on to Insight Timer. That's one of my favorite things. That's a free app on the phone, and they have thousands, hundreds of thousands of meditations. But you can also do a search on breathing exercises, and there are lots of talks about how to breathe. It's a wonderful resource. But of course, YouTube, I'm a fan of just having a look and finding something on YouTube that will guide you through how to take a breath. Now, besides breathing, which we all do, but we don't, the next thing that I talk to all of my clients about is water and the drinking of water. And there's so much conflicting information about that as well. So, when I was growing up, it was, drink 8 glasses of water every day for good health. Then that changed and it became, well, only drink if you're thirsty. And then that changed to, well, if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. And it is so confusing knowing what's right. And I like to encourage people to listen to your own body as a guide. But I found a useful little metric on the internet recently, and it says that we should be aiming to drink 35 mils of water per kilo of weight. So for example, if you weigh 70 kilos, then you're aiming to drink 2.4 liters of water a day. If you're 80 kilos, then 2.8 liters a day. Now that's a guideline. And if you're only drinking 3 or 4 glasses of water a day, that may seem unsurmountable. And I get that. So what I encourage you to do is to slowly increase the amount of water that you're drinking. And one of the things I get told all the time, almost daily, is, oh no, I can't drink too much water because then I'm running to the toilet all the time. So then my next question is, tell me, when are you drinking this water? And how much water are you drinking at one time? And quite often people will say, oh, well, I forget to drink throughout the day. So at kind of 4 o'clock, I suddenly think, oh my God, I haven't had any water. And so I drink a liter. And then I'm running to the loo all of the time. Like, well, yes, you are. And here's a lovely analogy. It's one of my favorites. So here in Australia, when we have drought and the earth gets rock hard, quite often that drought is broken with thunderstorms, and there's this deluge of rain that comes down. And because the earth is hard and dry, the water runs off and creates floods. Whereas if that drought is broken by lovely, gentle showers coming down periodically throughout the day, just short, gentle showers, what happens is that water soaks into the earth and gently softens the earth so that when the deluge of rain does come, most of that water is actually absorbed into the earth rather than running off. And it's the same thing with our bodies. So if you haven't had a drink all day and all of a sudden throw a bottle of water in, then it doesn't get absorbed. So yes, you're going to be running to the toilet And particularly if you do that just before you go to bed, you're going to be up all night. So the trick is that you have sips of water all throughout the day. So for me, I stagger it. So I have a bottle of water on my desk and I pour that into a separate little glass. So what I do is every hour or so in between clients, I'll drink a small glass of water and I'll refill the bottle as many times as I need. And for me, that's generally at least 3 times during the day. That's what works for me. Bring something in that works for you, but putting a whole big bottle in front of you and looking at it and thinking, I need to drink all of that can sometimes be overwhelming. For some people, that's what they need. I need to drink all of that, and that works. So find what works for you. Now, one of the questions I get asked in this conversation often is, but I drink 6 cups of tea and 4 cups of coffee every day. That's a lot of fluid. And to that I say, not all fluids are created equal. Caffeinated tea and coffee actually dehydrate your body. So for every cup of black caffeinated tea or coffee that you drink, you need to be drinking a glass of water just to keep you at equilibrium, just to keep your body away from dehydration. So if you're having, 5 cups of caffeinated drinks a day and you're not drinking water, then you are in massive dehydration. And that has a knock-on effect to every single part of your body, including your lymphatics, but your elimination, how you sleep, your skin, everything is affected if you are not drinking enough water. Now, a little caution here. If you have kidney disease, then that's a whole different ballgame, and you need to talk with your kidney specialist about how much water you should be drinking. Different thing. Also, heart disease. Those 2 things can be affected by the amount of water that you're drinking. So what I caution is, given your medical history, you need to weigh the pros and cons of each of these things that I'm talking about. So that's breathing and water. Now, let's talk about the water that you exercise in. And this is invaluable. Walking in the water is the best exercise that you can do for your lymphatics, hands down. Now, I know that in itself can be confronting because getting swimmers on, if you have a larger body that you don't like showing to anybody, that can be confronting. And I get that. There are things that you can wear. These days, you can have rashes down to your arms, the whole arms covered, and you can get leggings in the same material coming all the way down to your ankles. So it looks like you've got exercise gear on. And while it doesn't cover your shape, it does cover your skin and give you a bit more, I don't know, protection. It's that weird thing of if your skin is covered, then you feel less exposed. So there are ways that you can get around that putting on of a swimsuit in public. And I get that that is quite confrontational. If you can get past that, then exercising in the water, and it doesn't have to be swimming. In fact, walking is better. And here's the amazing fact that people don't realize. When you are prescribed medical grade compression, down at your feet, the compression is tighter. And as it comes up your leg, it gets less and less. So it's this graded compression. That compression uses milligrams of mercury. So you may be put in a class 1, 20 to 30 milligrams of mercury, or 30 to 40 in a class 2. But milligrams of mercury is actually water pressure. So when you are standing in a pool, the pressure is more down at your feet. and less as it comes up to your waist and chest. So getting into the water is this fantastic form of compression, but you're also walking in it and it's gentle on your joints. So there's no pressure on joints, which may be really struggling with the whole weight of lipedema. And you can do a whole lot more exercise in that supported environment than you would if you were just exercising on land. So walking in the water is like wearing full body compression up to wherever the water comes, and the higher the water comes, the better. It's just an amazing way of exercising that if you're lucky and live on the northern beaches of Sydney like I do, there are ocean pools on every beach. So you can just go along to an ocean pool, which is completely free, and just walk up and down. Or you find a municipal pool in your area, and you may have to pay a little bit of a fee to get in. If you have a pool in your backyard, get in it. If it's cold, buy a wetsuit and put the wetsuit on. I see people walking in my local pool, winter, summer, rain or shine, and sometimes all you see is a little face because the rest of them has a wetsuit on, including hands and feet. And in the summer, they get less and less. They may still have a rash vest or something like that on, but they're in there every single day because it is such a beneficial form of exercise, which no matter how immobile you are, most people can do something in the water. And if all you can do is get in the water and tread water or just stand there, brilliant. Do that. Easy, 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 in theory. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is very simple, and it's just putting your legs up the wall. Now, I know if you have limited mobility, that may be an issue. If you can get your legs up the wall once or twice a day, that's going to benefit you. It's a yoga pose, actually. So it's, again, working on your whole body. But having your legs up, the fluid is going to drain down. It's going to reduce some swelling and take some of the pressure off of the ankles and feet. Even if it's 5 minutes, it's going to be of help to you. Having said that, if you have mobility issues, then what I suggest is what we want is that your legs aren't hanging down on the ground, because that's when the fluid collects in the ankles, the lower legs, and the feet. So if you can't get your legs up the wall and you know you're going to be sitting for a period of time, then get some sort of little stool that you can raise your legs, even if it's just, that much. It doesn't need to be above your heart. It just needs to be so that your legs aren't hanging down and instead they're more of an angle. So hopefully that's going to reduce the amount of swelling that's coming down into this leg. If you can get it at 180 degrees, even better. So if you're watching TV, if you sort of sit on the sofa and bring your legs up on the sofa, brilliant. Do that. So legs up the wall as often as you can, or a version of that, depending on your mobility. Then you can bring in things, exercise at home, because it's a real barrier to get into exercise clothes, to go to a class, you have to drive there. I get that. So it's bringing in incidental exercise into your daily life. So it can be things like when you're going to get up to do something, instead of getting up just the once, sit back down and get up a second time. And if all you can manage at the beginning is to get up twice, then start there. For a few days, every time you get up twice. And then once you feel that's fairly easy, then get up 3 times. And you're adding, and that's a bit of exercise that you can bring in multiple times a day that's not having you go somewhere else or pay for anything. It's something that you can incorporate every single day, multiple times a day. But start slowly. If you really struggle with mobility, then just add one more and build from there. Another thing you can do is, I'm just looking around to see what I can pick up. You can pick up any object that you have at home and use that as a weight. So whether it's a bottle of water or a liter of milk or 2 cans, and you just can do some exercises sitting in your chair. You can have them on the table next to you and just do some curls, some arm lifts if you can, coming out, just little exercises, holding a weight. Now, if a can of beans is too much weight for you or too hard for you to grasp, if you've got hand issues, then something like a roll of toilet paper. It doesn't have to be something heavy. And you just bring a little bit of those movement exercises into your daily life multiple times a day. Because what your lymphatic system needs is muscle contraction. That's what helps move the lymph fluid through your body. So bring in a bit of exercise wherever you can. Now, the next one is, you can do some squats while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. Or you can do your little curls while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. Now, when I say squats, I don't mean getting down into a full squat. I mean coming and just doing a quarter squat. So it's not a big movement. Doesn't have to be. It's just a little bit of movement that you're incorporating. The other thing you can do is you can actually come up onto the balls of your feet. So you're doing a heel rise, holding on to something and just up and down. So get creative about what sort of exercises you can bring in that are incidental while you're waiting, while you're brushing your teeth or brushing your hair. You can be getting up on the balls of those feet. And then, oh my gosh, YouTube is just the best place for finding free stuff. If you go onto YouTube, you can find exercise classes for Pilates, Tai Chi, or yoga, any of those things, any of those breathing-based exercises. And you can even do a search looking for chair Pilates or chair yoga, chair Tai Chi, if you have mobility issues. And I don't have a favorite place to direct you to. Just go and explore on YouTube. You will find the perfect thing for you with an instructor who appeals to you, not somebody whose voice irritates you or anything like that. So go and have a search on YouTube and you may find a 5-minute routine that you can start with and then build from there. Okay, so cold showers. There's a lot of research showing that cold water is immensely beneficial for your health. And it shows all sorts of amazing things for reducing swelling. And, in the heat of summer, heat triggers more swelling. So cold is going to help with swelling. Be careful here that you are not going into, you may find that an ice bath, while it may be okay for you, for lipedema tissue, which can be quite soft, sometimes it almost burns the tissue. So you need to be really cautious about how you try it. So what you can try first is finishing your shower with cold water. I've never managed to get past more than 5 seconds. I'm not a cold water person, but I absolutely believe the benefits of it. So if you can bring some cold water therapy into your daily life, fantastic. And you don't have to go somewhere and join a cold, an ice bath challenge or anything like that. If you love an ice bath, I have clients who will fill their bath with cold water and throw some ice in there and sit in it. So you can do that at home. If you don't have a bath, that's where you bring the cold shower at the end. Or you can fill a bucket with cold water and add some ice and just put your legs in there. Put your lower legs. Right. The next thing I'm going to talk about is something that I get on my soapbox about, so I'm going to try to behave. Read the labels on your food in particular, but also on the things that you're putting onto your skin. Read them carefully. Just because something says it's organic or gluten-free does not mean that it is good for you. I can't stress that enough. You know, just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean that it's okay to eat the packet of chocolate cookies, because it's still processed. It still has sugar. It still has grains and processed foods in it, even if it is organic. Anything that's coming in a package is going to have some level of inflammation tied to it, and lipedema is an inflammatory disease. We want to reduce the amount of inflammation every way that we can. And it's the same thing with all, the creams and stuff, all natural, this, that, the other. I still struggle to find creams that are chemical free. And so sometimes it's just about finding something that is as close to chemical free as you can get. And the other thing you can do for free is self-lymphatic drainage or dry brushing. And I'm not going to talk about that here, because I have a whole video on that. And instead of doing the whole 10 minutes explaining that, I'm going to go to the Q&A that I had at the conference that I didn't get a chance to answer. And what I'll do is I will put a link to my dry brushing video and how to open up your lymph nodes. I'll put that in the comments and you can go and look at that later. Or the video is also on my website, so you can go and have a look on my website for that. Okay, so now we move on to the low-cost things that I can recommend. And the first one is, just reaching over here, dry brushing. These are cheap as. You don't need a fancy pants. I've got one of these that I was given that's all vegan and fancy, and it costs about $40, and it feels like a Brillo pad. It is too hard for a lipedema body. This is one that I got just at the chemist, and the Manicure brand does a good one, and it costs less than $10. It's an amazing tool, and check out my video in the link, and that will give you the full explanation of how to do some dry brushing and open up your lymph nodes. Now, I know that this next thing I'm going to talk about isn't necessarily a low-cost item, but if it was one thing that you were going to invest in to manage your lipedema, for me, it would be a pump. So SIPC, a sequential intermittent pneumatic compression, a pump. These are the closest things that you are going to get to actually having a treatment with a therapist. And yes, it's an expensive gadget to buy, but you can use this every single day of life. So you can have an hour's worth of treatment every single day. And there are two that I recommend because these ones have been researched and have lots of lymphatic research behind them to prove their validity. The first is the MediRend pump. So you can either go with the LX9 or their biocompression pants. They've got two options. One just comes to the top of the legs. One is a whole pant, and it depends on what you have going on in your abdomen as to which one I recommend. And the other is the LymphaPress. So these two companies I really respect their machines, and I know that they've been well researched, and their customer service is very good as well. Now, when using a pump, you must, and I cannot stress this enough, you must open up your lymph nodes first. And you must do that diaphragmatic breathing that I talked about right at the start. So those 5 breaths to activate the lymphatics in your abdomen. Essential. If you do not open up those lymph nodes, and there's a blockage in your system somewhere, and these pumps are really effective at moving fluid, then that fluid has nowhere to go. So even if multiple times while you are pumping, you do the breathing in particular and open up the lymph nodes in your neck, then you are giving yourself the best treatment that you possibly can. So hands down, my favorite tool, if all you have is one tool, is a pump. On the other spectrum of really fun things that you can do, there is a little pedal that's sold at Kmart for $35. And it is literally a pedal. It's this triangular thing with 2 pedals sticking out. You throw that on the floor and you can just be pedaling while you're at work, underneath your desk, while you're watching TV. And what that's doing is it's activating the muscles in your calf. And once those are activated, then that starts pushing fluid from your leg all the way up. You can also use that little pedal. You can put it on your desk, on your table, and you can use it for your hands. So, and that's a really good cardiovascular workout. It's getting you to breathe deeper. It's building the muscles in your arms. So again, it's pumping the fluid through the arms, but it's actually beneficial for your chest, for your lungs to improve, and for your general level of fitness. So that's a very, very cheap thing that you can just get from Kmart. You can also get some resistance bands and do some resistance-based exercises while you are in your chair or standing and holding onto the wall while you attach it to a chair leg or anything like that. And those are really cheap. You know, you can spend $10 and get one, and heaps of different exercises that you can do with that without having to leave your home. And compression, again, not a low-cost item. But if you're really strapped for cash and you are desperate for compression, then you can start with compression from Aldi or Big W or Kmart at $10 or $15 a pair. Yet something is better than nothing. And if all you can get is a pair of leggings from Aldi, then knock yourself out. That is going to help you. And that's going to just help with some of the tenderness that you're feeling and may help move some of the fluid as well. I get it. Compression can be a ridiculously expensive process. And, you know, you can go and see a therapist who says, oh, well, you need custom-made flat knit class 2 compression. And if that's $800 or $900 for a pair of pantyhose, that is way out of reach for a lot of people. So do what you can and source compression from somewhere along the lines of Aldi, Big W. Now, this may sound a little bit well, a little weird, but properly fitting bras and undies are essential for your lymphatic system. At the Lymphedema Conference that I attended earlier this year, there was a whole presentation just on bras and how important getting that fit is. So I know that my bra fits really well down here. It's got quite a wide band, and that sits nicely on my chest wall here. But if you've got that lovely soft lipedema tissue that's quite bulging here, having a thick bra strap, what happens is it bends in two and forms a tourniquet. So it has this really compressive thing. You've got double the bra strap down the bottom here. And that then impedes the flow of lymph coming up into your neck. So it may be that for you, having a thinner band down the bottom is better. So watch your bras and see how they're fitting underneath the bosoms here. That's such a great word, isn't it? Don't know where that came from, bosoms. Now, I know that my bras, while they fit beautifully here, they've got really thin straps. And those thin straps can dig into your shoulders, and you've got lots of lymph vessels coming up the top here. This is considered part of your neck. All through here, there are lots of lymph vessels and lymph nodes. And if you have a thin bra strap that is digging into your shoulder, that again is impeding the flow of lymph coming from your arms. So what I do is I put one of these, and I call it a spacer, but I think it's actually called a bra strap cushion. This was a question, one of the Q&A questions at the conference, and I couldn't remember what it was called because I've had this for years. So you get this at any bra shop, at Big W, Kmart, or in the lingerie department of any department store. Again, not an expensive thing. They are silicone, so if you have an allergy to silicone, then please be sensible and don't put this on. Or if you do get one, you can cover it. You can make a little cover of cloth so that the silicone's not touching your skin. There are ways around it. But it's this little gizmo that opens up and allows you, I'll show you on me, to put the bra strap through so that it spaces, it spreads the pressure of the bra strap so that you're not getting that cut here, cutting off the circulation of the lymph. Really cheap thing that's easy. Now, the same thing with your undies. You want to make sure that you are not wearing restrictive undies that are really tight at the top of the leg, because that is going to block the flow of lymph coming up into your groin area and then coming up. And again, you don't want it tight across the waist because that's, again, another tourniquet. So some nice, comfy cotton undies that aren't digging into you. Basically, we're trying to remove any restrictions that we possibly can. Right, onwards. A quick little word about some mindset things. And I have a whole video from my last talk at the last Lipoedema conference that was all about this. So you can go and find it on my website. But avoid comparisonitis. It's really easy to be in a support group and to see somebody who has had, I've lost 30 kilos, it was so easy, and and then you feel like a failure. Try not to compare yourself to anybody else who you see. You don't know what else they're doing. You don't know what stage they're at. You don't know their genetic makeup. It's really important. This is an individual disease, and you are doing your own little path to bring yourself into alignment. So as much as you can, avoid the comparisonitis and going, well, they did it, so I should be able to. That doesn't work with this condition because it is so individual. So keep that in mind. It's a really important, simple thing. And along with that goes, become aware of your self-talk, because every time we put ourselves down in our head or in front of somebody else, that is adding more stress to our bodies. And the talk I gave last conference was all about that, how to reduce the inflammatory load on your body. Each time we talk badly to ourselves, that increases our inflammation. And as we know, this is an inflammatory disease. We need to tackle it from every angle. Along with that, Be kind to yourself. You know, if you are on a regimented way of eating and that works for you, and you go out and your friends convince you to have something that you don't usually eat, you know what? Eat it, enjoy it. Don't beat yourself up. You know that the next day you're going to be in pain, possibly. You may have more inflammation, the swelling may be up, you may not sleep well, but tomorrow's another day and you will get back on your way of eating tomorrow. So while you're having this little break from the routine, enjoy it. Be kind to yourself. You cannot be regimented all the time. And you don't have to do it all of the time. So if you are just starting on this process of looking at what works for your lipedema, I encourage you to add one thing at a time, whether that's compression or way of eating or exercise or dry brushing or the pumps, whatever it is, add one thing at a time so that you know which of those things is working. Because if you throw everything at it all at the same time, there may be things in there that aren't working that you can get rid of that are taking up your time and money, but you don't know that because you've thrown everything at it at the same time. So I know that, you know, when you get a diagnosis, it's really tempting to just go and do all the things all the time, straight away. Take your time. This is a lifestyle change for the rest of your life. Add one thing at a time. Be kind to yourself. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about I'm going to answer the Q&A questions that were asked at the conference, and there's some great ones. So the first one was, what about dandelion tea, for example, that isn't caffeinated? Does that count towards the water intake? And my answer is absolutely. Herbal teas that aren't caffeinated, and be aware that things like green tea is caffeinated unless you specifically see decaffeinated on the box. Uncaffeinated teas, fabulous. Juices, that doesn't count as water. Carbonated water, you can do that. It's not as beneficial, but it is still, if there's nothing added to that carbonated water. So if, say, for example, you have a soda stream or something, that's going to work as well. I personally drink filtered water, but if all you have is tap water, then do that. If you're a little concerned about the quality of the water, boil it, let it cool, drink that. So herbal teas that aren't caffeinated are fine. The next question was, is plain water hydrating enough, or do we need electrolytes? Again, this is a really individual question. Brilliant question, by the way. Plain water's fine. But if you are somebody who doesn't have enough salts in their diet, then adding lots of water may dilute those salts even more. So adding a pinch of salt for some added minerals, or adding some minerals, you know, vitamin supplement minerals to the water may be helpful. And you can also add like a little squeeze of lemon or lime juice that gives a little bit of flavor, but is also quite detoxing for the body. Now, this is a biggie. Can you recommend a low tox moisturizer? Yes, I can. I can recommend many. I can tell you that my favorite that I use every day is Skin Food Light, which is from a company called Weleda. This company has been around for forever. Their products are really pure and homeopathically based. They are lovely products. Everything is natural, beautiful. They're costly. So if you are struggling financially, then you can go to the supermarket and you can buy a jar of coconut oil in the cooking department and just use that. coconut oil absorbs into the body really easily. Or you can get a tub of plain shea butter or jojoba oil or rosehip oil. Any of those things, you can mix them together. So the more expensive ones you can put into a cheaper carrier, mix them together and make your own if you like. At the Lymphology Conference in May, there was a stand with QV, which is what, a lot of people use. I had a look at the ingredients and there's still something in there that I don't love, but it's on the lower spectrum of chemicals. So that's one that's readily available everywhere, and it's quite a light thing to apply. So if QV is something that you use, then keep using that. That's going to work. Now, the next question. Are sport massage guns like the Theragun good or bad for lipedema? Great question. If you can tolerate a massage gun on your legs, then it is going to help break up some of the fibrotic tissue. Personally, I run a mile because I'd be screaming if I had a Theragun on my legs. On my back, sure. And I don't have lipedema, but the thought of having that on my legs makes me want to scream. But if you can tolerate that, then yeah, it's going to help. Knock yourself out. Know that you're going to have some bruising, but that bruising is going to get less over time as you start to break up some of the fibrosis and inflammation. So if you can tolerate it, a Theragun is going to work fine. The next question is, what is the minimum depth of water that would be beneficial for lipedema? And my answer is, the deeper the better. So if all you can get up to is your knees as you're walking along the ocean front, do that. But the deeper that you can get in, the better, because we really want the stomach to be underneath the water, because over 50% of your lymph nodes are in your abdomen. We want those to be stimulated as much as we possibly can. So as deep as you can. And, if you can't get to a pool or the ocean, but you have a bath at home, then fill the bath and get in there with not too hot water. And you can add some Epsom salts or salt just to give the minerals, which then get absorbed through your skin. And that's going to be good for the aches and pains, but also to balance the minerals in your body. Okay, so the last question. In my demonstration, I used a little ball. Let me grab a ball to put underneath the arms to open up lymph nodes under the arms. Now, the question was, is it a soft ball like a dog toy, or is it spiky? It's soft, it's squishy like a dog toy, and you can use this underneath the armpit. You can actually use it to roll on the bits of you that are fibrotic. You can put it in the elbows here, and you can do some exercises, squeezing exercises with it. Now, this beautiful one, you can see the Lipoedema Australia logo here. This one I got at the conference, and it comes in hot pink and the purple, the lipedema colors. The balls are great for opening up your lymph nodes. You can even put them in your neck here if you have trouble opening up, bringing your arms to this point of your body. Okay, that is the end of my presentation. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me either on social media at Lisa Higgins Massage or through my website, which is lisahiggins.com.au. And if you would like more videos on different topics, then put those through to me and I'll see what I can do for you. Thank you for playing along, and so lovely to have you watching. I hope you found this useful, and I'll talk to you again soon.